This conference will now be recorded.
There's security from several aspects. There's security from the aspect of the actual application. There's security from the aspect of the actual network. So when you think about network, just don't think about network at the company, but think about your own Wi-Fi at home. How secure is that Wi-Fi? Like if you're broadcasting your SSID, that means you're broadcasting to the entire neighborhood. I'm here, come attack me. You should turn that off actually, right? Another thing is you have to think about network security, or another place to think about security is from a car perspective. Like when you get in your car. I don't know if people watched some of the guys that what they do is it's a two-man system. They walk up and somebody reads the signal off of your key fob, and then somebody gets that signal and then duplicates that and then opens up the car. So now you're in the car and then you can go and do whatever you need to from there. One of the things that people I don't know if you ever heard of this or whatnot, but it's called a Faraday cage. So some people put it in a box. Hold on, let me move the screen over here. Let's see, let's go here. Faraday uh cage for key fobs, right? So some people keep that so they can protect their RFID signal, right? So that way somebody don't pick that up on the outside, right? So that's one aspect of security. Another one is when you're talking about security is your ring. People have ring on the front door. Remember there was a issue with ring a while back. Ring security hack for cameras. People were able to access their cameras on the ring doors. So that yeah, doesn't sue ring after camera hack leads to threats. That was just in December, right? So when we talk about security, we're not just talking about security just in the the network or whatnot, but do you know what the number one security problem is in every company? You know what the number one threat is?
No,
Did you see somebody text them? Pfizer. The number one threat is an insider threat. So the number one threat is you at your company. You are the number one threat. There was an article released recently. Tampa exec fired, release emails. She released emails or something like that. Yeah, fired right here, September 2nd. Fired HR director. She get 15 years. They're giving her 15 years for deleting
yeah.
for for deleting computer resumes. Right?
Oh yeah, I read that.
You remember that? But now they're giving her a sentence. 41. She was 41. And she's got to go to jail for 15 years.
Wow.
But possibly, right? Possibly 15 years. She was like, oh, you gonna fire me? All right. So she deleted
Crazy.
17,000 job applications. So what happened was, 9 times out of 10, she got fired, went back to her desk, and started deleting stuff. What should have happened was the people who said that they were gonna let her go, they should have, they should
That's
have,
right.
they should have told security. They should have told security first and delete and pause their accounts, because remember, you can't really delete people accounts because you have to keep a history of people accounts. There's compliance rules that you have and keep these accounts around for 5 years and sometimes 10, depending on who the agency is and what you're doing, right? And so what should have happened was is they should have just paused all her accounts and then, when they was gonna get rid of her, immediately lockdown. Or if they would find her on the spot, be like, do not pass go, do not go back to your desk. We'll bring your stuff out to you and keep pushing. But they didn't do that, right? So she was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna delete these 17,000 emails, right? So when we think about security, we got to think about security from multiple aspects. Yep. Let's see. Do you recommend using a VPN at home? If so, which one would you recommend? I would recommend a VPN at home. Um, if I would recommend a VPN if you go somewhere, I would recommend, and that's something I should have did a long time ago, is setting up a VPN for when you're traveling out of the country, right? Or you're traveling to a hotel. The one thing you don't want to do is put your laptop on their network,
Mhm.
right? Because you don't know what's going on. Another place you don't want to put your information, your work laptop or even your own laptop, is on the airplane and at the airport Wi-Fi, right? If you got a phone, turn on your hotspot, right? Keep it on your own. We had someone come on a while ago. I got to see if he can come back, where he talked about uh he has a satellite that's at his house, and he just, for fun, he just hacks wireless routers around his neighborhood within a 2-mile radius. He's not the
And
only one. Huh?
and do what?
He
He
just
hacks them and he just get into them and just.
he just get into them to see what they doing, get
Oh
data
my
off on where they're going, and it's really easy to do. Really easy to do. A wireless hack is really easy to get in. So if you ever look on your, and I know you're like, dude, this got to do with managing network security in Linux. It
wait.
has.
I'm sorry. He get past their pass if they have a password set. He gets
It
past.
I mean, it's not hard, right? So like you get, say you got a default router, you get a router from Best Buy, and
Mhm.
just use the default router, the default username and password, right? You don't
Mhm.
change it. Or you get somebody that come in and set up your stuff, and they broadcast their SSID and they don't lock it down. Or you're sharing your stuff with a neighbor or something like that. Anything can go. But the situation is this. If you look at your router, it actually has a network for the house, and then it has a guest network. So you have different networks set up already, for when people come over. You can just say, hey, yeah, let's put them on the 2G network, and we're gonna keep the 5G for ourselves. So you're already breaking that up. Another one is going into your router and breaking up into network. So say you got a kid and you don't want that kid to get out to bad sites or whatnot, you can lock that down at the router, right? You can say, well, if they're gonna get these so many IP addresses, and they're never gonna be able to get to MTV, or they're never gonna be able to get the regular Google. They can only go to Google Kids. You can set it up just like that for them, right? So you can lock things down at the router, because the routers now are sophisticated enough to do that. Another thing where all this comes into play is network security. So in Linux, in here, as you can see, they start talking about firewalls. I didn't read through this chapter today because I wasn't sure if they were gonna go over IP tables, but the latest and greatest firewall for Linux is Firewall D. And then they talk about in here some history about the architecture of firewalls. All right. So let's get into this here. So remember I talk about the Linux kernel, right? it includes net filter. So it's a framework for the network traffic operations such as packets. And remember, you can filter on your firewall, right? Just like you filter when you're looking at for those who are dating, it's just like you filter men or filter women or whatever you choosing to look at, you filter and you put a filter on Instagram, right? It's certain things you want to allow, certain things you don't want to allow. All right. So you got network address translation and port address translation. In other words, if you're coming from a certain network, I'll allow you in. If you're coming from a certain port, I'll allow you in, meaning port 443, I'll allow all that traffic. But that port 80, that telnet port, the FTP, I'm not allowing that traffic on my network. And you have the ability to control that on a individual level, on your Linux boxes in AWS and any of the Google stuff, right? Or any of the cloud stuff. But even let's take it one step further. Suppose you had suppose you had 200 boxes and you had to set up the firewall on those 200 boxes, and they only had certain DNS servers they could use, and they all needed to have just port 443 open. So now you're like, okay, well, I could do that. I could set it up where I could do that on the firewall. But suppose what happens to if they get through the firewall? How do you protect the host? So on your Windows boxes, you have a firewall on your Windows boxes as well as a firewall on your Mac boxes, right? Has anybody ever set their firewall up on their Windows box or their Macs or their Linux boxes? Let me look and see. I asked the question, but I need to pull it up. Right. So if you are on your Windows boxes, right? Firewall Windows, right? So you get a firewall on Windows 10. I should put that. You have a firewall on your local box. Usually looks something like that, right? You come in and you set your private network and your public, and you turn on your firewall and you say what you can and what can't you, what you can and what can't you do, right? So this is the same. It's the same concept here, right? So in here it says, for us, when I say us that are in the Linux world, we're implementing this by using the kernel, but in the kernel, that intercept function calls. Remember, I told you about system calls and function calls. NetFilter allows other modules to interface directly with the kernel's networking stack. So when you see that and you don't understand what they're talking about, highlight it and then let's go look it up so you can see. All right. Let me see if they got an image of it. Right. So here, they're just talking about their stack there. Here, this is really what you want to focus on this one. So the RXTX, that's your actual NIC card, right?
Receive
That NIC
transmit?
card, huh?
Is it receive transmit?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. So your NIC card has that information coming in, receive and translate those packets, right? And then in here, they're talking about the driver space. Again, we're talking kernels in the kernel space. I remember I keep on talking about if I got a NIC card, that NIC card needs to be recognized by my operating system. That means I need to have a driver, and that driver, it will help me or enable me the ability to talk back and forth between the operating to the operating system, right? So if I do something, I can talk directly to my hardware, right? And so then they talk about the traffic control, and then here's that net filter in the kernel space, right? And then the TCP stack, and then the socket layer. And then what they don't do in here, I know they don't have a picture of this, but let's go here and type in TCP stack. And let's look at the TCP stack. Let's go. I always type in TCP stack or something like that, and then I just go to the images so you can understand what we're talking about here. So here, this is from an Oracle perspective, but that's fine. What they're trying to show is how stuff is actually uh sent back and forth, right? Um, Here, this is get complicated, but again, this is the sending host. And what they're trying to do here is go over the OSI model, and I ain't want to get into this, but that's fine. It's not all of it, but it's 7 layers to the OSI model. But here they're just talking about what happens when packets travel, right? So one of your interview questions will be, what happens when a packet leaves your computer and goes out to the internet, right? So what they're looking for is like, you're sending, you have the application layer, you have the transport layer here where they're talking about your TCP segment, your IP diagram, your data link layer. This is getting into your layer 2, and then your physical layer is your layer 1. That's your actual NIC card, and then back up. So your traffic does that U pattern. Like, I come in and I go back out. And so that's when you are looking at that. Where's that at right here when we're talking about this RxTX, right? That's what we're looking at. We're receiving and translating, right? That's what we're talking about here. So let's see if we that, and this is goes back to a question I asked Joan, TCP three-way handshake, and this is only for TCP. I'm not going to do the UDP one. Joan, which one y'all use? Y'all use this one? Is this a good one that y'all use, or y'all use this one?
Uh, I think yeah, this one is fine.
I like this one better. It's
Yeah,
simple. It's simple.
yeah.
Yeah, that's simple. All right, so it's a three-way handshake when we're talking about TCP. All right, it's called a three-way handshake. Um, Hope that's big enough for you all. So thank you, Techopedia. So we send something out to, I'm Tamika is gonna send something out to the network, right? And then it's something's gotta, with TCP, it has to be something on the other end that's gonna return me something, right? So TCP is secure, right? So I'm gonna send something is gonna send me something back. That's what you see when you're out there with your DNS. Something is sending something back to say, I got the sync and I acknowledge it. And there's a lot more to this if you get into your Cisco networking with headers and so forth. But I'm not gonna get in that tonight. And then I acknowledge that. And so that's what they talk about here. This three-way handshake here, right? So the first one is a connection between a server and a client is established. So we're going to establish that. And then the server receives the sync packet from the client node. And then here, the client node receives the sync and acknowledge from the server and responds with an acknowledged package. So I mean, you can look at, I don't know if you want to look at it this way. You can look at it as eye contact. Like, I'm not gonna make a move till I get some eye contact from you, right? I'm sending it out there when I'm talking to you, and if you don't return around and give me eye contact, then I haven't you haven't acknowledged me, right? And then once you acknowledge me and we're synced up, then I'm gonna go ahead and continue my conversation. And that's this part right here. Did that make sense the way I broke it down that way?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
All
Yes.
right, cool. So it's the three-way handshake. So in here in the class, when we're talking about this firewall, right? They're going through and they said firewall software uses these hooks to register filter rules and packet modifying functions We ain't gonna worry about all of that because this right here, they're not gonna ask you in a interview. They're not gonna ask you this part in an interview, except maybe this part right here. They might ask you about net filter. It's right here. To do right here, any incoming, outgoing, or forward network packet can be inspected, modified, dropped, or routed programmatically before reaching user space components or applications. So when they talk about this part right here, they're talking about what you can do in the fire with the firewall. You can get an incoming packet, you can send an outgoing packet, you can forward to a network, you can drop it, you can inspect it, you can modify it, you can not even respond to it, right? So what you'll find on the internet is some people block off ping. Has everybody used ping before?
Yeah.
All right. So let me give you this one. How to change those or delete them out. We'll delete them. It's all good. So here what we do ping google.com, right? You see I'm pinging and I'm getting the knowledge back, right? But there are some websites that you can't ping. You have to allow ping through the firewall. You have to allow, like, I send ping, but I may tell I can set my firewall up that when ping come in, drop it. Cause you're not gonna be able to use ping on me. You're gonna drop that ping, right? So you can do that. All right. So and that's what this part right here is talking about. All right. So the Linux kernel also has NFT tables, a new filter and packet classification subsystem. So this is new for me. That has enhanced portions of NetFilter's code, but retaining the NetFilter architecture, such as networking, stack hooks, connections, and so forth. All right, let's see. Let's go. The advantages of this one is it has faster packet processing, faster rule sets, because you can get DOS attacked out here. I bet you do I have my Google server up? Let me see. It's probably getting um attacked like no other. Let's go and look. Let me see. I got one instance up. It's probably getting all kind of attacked because I didn't lock it down. And let's go here. And we're gonna go to var log messages. And we're gonna see what the attack space looks like. So whenever you are having your servers stood up in the cloud, the best rule of thumb is to lock it down to your IP address, your public IP address from your system. You're the only person that can log in from that particular network. So let's go sudo
That
bash.
reminds me, that HR lady, so the company didn't have a central login system to find out what she was doing?
They probably no, well, they probably didn't know what she was doing. I'm looking in here to see how many times I've gotten hit over here. I might be locked down. I might be okay over here. Looks like I might be okay because I don't see a lot of traffic here. Let me see the old var log cd, meaning change directory, and the directory I'm going to is /var/log. Let me see. Now I'm looking to see which file was written to last. Let's look at secure. There may not be nothing in there. Oh, here we go. So here's where I've been getting hit at. Look at that. So you can see people are hitting the server, right? They're trying to log in with just a dictionary chat, right?
Hmm.
Oh, hit it with Ubuntu. I'm gonna hit it with disconnect with invalid user. Like, so you can turn off these disconnects. So you can see somebody's hey 1 2 3 4 admin. Um and then they give me the port of where they're coming from, right? So a lot of times when people hop, they'll do a network hop. So they'll bounce off of one server to another server and just hop around. So you can come in here and uh, look up um, IP address. Let's see. That's mine. Let's go look up this. Luxembourg, right? Here's the IP. I mean the ISP that they're coming off of, right? And so what people do is they'll bounce around different networks. So what should happen is there's two things that should happen here. Inside of Google Cloud, right? You can set your firewall in Google Cloud. And under that, if you were in Google Cloud, you would come down here to net VPC network, and then you'll go to firewall. And then you can set it up. And here's some firewall rules that I have set up. I can set it up, or I can create a new rule. And I can give it a name and stuff like that. But let's hop down here. I can give it a source IP ranges, right? Where I say, okay, well, I only want you to come from a certain set of IPs, right? And then I can say, well, I only want, remember, TCP port 22 from a particular IP address. They're only allowed SSH to that, right? So I can set that up. And the same concept that I'm doing right here is what we're going to do in the class here, right? So here they start getting into introducing Firewall D. Firewall D is a package, a RPM package that we need to install. It should be installed by default, but sometimes some people use IP tables. All right, so Firewall D is a dynamic manager front end to NFT tables framework using using the NFT command. Until the introduction of NFT table, Firewall D used the IP tables command to configure net filter, and it did. In RHEL 7, it used that. In RHEL 8, they dropped that. So that's why I say this new. Directly as an improved alternative to IP tables, RHEL 8 Firewall D remains the recommended front end. So it has a GUI that goes with it. I'm sure Sasha loves that. And manage your firewall rule sets using NFT. Firewall D remains capable of reading and managing IP tables. So they left that in there in case some people need to use it. All right. So you used to have IP tables installed, and then Firewall D could then work, but it's only because it was tied to net filter. So they took that out and tied it to NFT tables. So that's where that comes into play. All right. All right. So here on your physical machines, they have network manager where you can use network manager to automatically set up your firewall connections and zones and so forth. And so they have a list of predefined zones for Firewall D. Um, IP tables, there used to be an old book in case you all that are um get with a company and they want you to use IP tables. So I'm gonna log into Safari books online. Let me see, let me get signed in. That may work. Yeah. All right, so what we're gonna do here is we're going to go to books, and we're just gonna type in IP tables because there's a whole book on Linux firewalls, is what it's really called. That's what I should have typed in, and it's a whole book on firewalls and how to set up a VPN server on Linux. You can set up your own VPN server, but here it is right here. See, from 2006 is an old book designing and implementing Linux firewalls. And QoS is quality of service. And you can see NetFilter comes back up. Here's the NFT one right here, right? And they probably go into some deep details about it or whatnot. But if you want to know more about firewalls, like there's some people, all they do is handle Linux and network traffic and routers and switches throughout the on-prem, the cloud, throughout, just in different segments of the actual company itself. So here in this book, they just talk about the Linux firewall with IP tables and then NFT tables. So we know IP tables, we're referring, that's really back to Rail 7, and NFT tables is new in Rail 8, and that's a tie to your Firewall D now. There is Firewall D in Rail 7, but it's tied to IP tables. And then it's saying migrate to NFT tables or take advantage of the latest IP tables enhancements, because IP tables been around such a long time. And then manage complex multiple firewall configurations, create and debug firewall rules, use the Samhan and other tools to protect the file system integrity, monitor networks and detect intrusions, harden systems against port scanning. So you can do a TCP dump. I am not in the cloud, but I am on my network. But I can do what we call, let me see, is TCP dump installed here? Nope. Hold on. Yeah, it's installed, and you can do this on your local boxes, but I wouldn't recommend you do this on your machine. I mean, on your I wouldn't recommend you do this on your cloud stuff. But you can see it's pretty chatty, right? So I can do a filter with TCP dump. I can filter by port. I can filter by um I can filter by IP address, so the type of traffic. If you're never sure about stuff, you can always do a man on TCP dump, and it'll tell you what you could do. So your man pages, for those that are new, it's your help guide. This is going to tell you what your options are. It's going to give you a description of what the actual product is. It's also going to give you information on how to use it. Is everybody following along so far? I know I've been talking.
Yes.
Yes.
Make sense? Is able to keep up, right? Yes, no. Yes, no. Able to keep up?
Best I
Learning.
can.
Somebody said something. What'd you say?
I said best I can. Taking
Best.
notes.
Okay, that's fine. All right. But it's recorded, so it's all good. All right. So that's what TCP dump. Joan, I'm sure you used TCP dump in before in the security class, correct? Or did they talk about it?
They talked about it. The new class, I'm gonna dive into that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So TCP dump is your friend. There is a whole section out here in the security world for TCP dump, but if you go here and if you type in Wireshark, there's a whole certification that you can take for Wireshark, right? Where people, this is all they do. They just talk about and Wireshark took a long time to make training, but now they've gotten more advanced. Now they have Wireshark USA, so now you get a chance to do inspections. You start learning how to do an analysis. You can, what we call a PCAP, where you capture network traffic and then you can go do an analysis on it. And I probably should do like a Wireshark training, because it's just something good to have if you're a Linux admin or a cloud security engineer. When you start talking about red teaming and blue teaming and stuff, where you start doing network traffic analysis and so forth, like where did this person come from? What did they hit? What are they putting inside the packets and so forth? So you can do that with TCP dump. Go check them out on YouTube, and they probably got some more videos here posted for TCP dump. See TCP, see Sharkfest US. So Sharkfest 19, 18. Of course, we didn't have 20. Let's go here. Sharpfish. And this usually right is what I see at conferences. This is probably about right. Um, naming things. Uh, I have no idea what this is. Ethnography of the sock. Don't know. That's new to me. And then I guess they went into their classes, so you could catch some of their old stuff here. TLS encryption and decryption, debugging TLS issues. And when we're talking about TLS, remember we're talking about HTTP, we're talking about your SSL, so forth, and then your TLS connections. And you'll get into that as your journey continues inside of Linux, creating how to create an SSL cert, an unsigned SSL cert. Here, automating cloud infrastructure for analysis of large network capture. That would be a video I would watch. That's exactly what I was just talking about. Automating cloud infrastructure. Let's see what else they have in here. High level terms and definitions. It's not changing with me. Get data out of the cloud. Post provision of virtual machines. They're just going over terms right here, and then they go a little bit more into it right here. It's a whole bunch of slides. I'm not gonna go through all these, but they just talk about how you can use Wireshark to capture information out of the cloud, right? An attempt. This ran for 8 hours. Never finished the first part of the parsing script. Blah 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 blah. Could not complete the job given the tool. Here they're just showing you T-Shark, so they're using Wireshark to do a capture right here, a large capture, right? So I'll give you this link, and there's probably a video associated with it, so you can go check that out. I can't. It won't let me type. Let me go to Slack. Um, I'm gonna drop this in the RHCSA group right there. All right, and then I am going to drop this link here so you all can check this out. And just go on YouTube and check out Wireshark. I can't drop it there. Go back here. Drop it here. All right. Wireshark. So as you can see, as I walk through the classes, I give you a little bit more information. I'll give you a little bit more history. It's not just the classes. So back to the class, they're talking about the different zones. A trusted zone, meaning allow all incoming traffic, and they tell you. And then you have zones. So like remember I told you you could break up your router into different the same way you could do with a guest network or so forth and so on. Well, you could say, well, in my home zone, I want to reject traffic unless related to outgoing or matching. So like, hey, SSH or Samba or something like that. Internal, reject incoming traffic unless you got work, you got public, you got external, and then you have your DMZ, which is where most applications live, that are publicly accessible from companies. They'll place this stuff in what we call your DMZ, demilitarized. I'm screwing that word. Demilitarized zones. I'm screwing that word up.
Yeah,
We
that's it. That's it.
demilitarized
Yeah,
zones.
demilitarized zone.
Yeah, demilitarized zones, right? And so let me show you what that looks like. What's a good one? Let's look and see if this is a good photo. Yeah. So here is your internal. So say this is you at home, right? Say you got your firewall from Comcast, AT&T, whoever, Verizon, and then that firewall has a switch on it as well too. And so you may have your desktop and internal machines, tablets, and stuff out here. Well, off that same firewall, you can say, I want to have some stuff publicly accessible. So this is where you could throw something in the DMZ, and then out here you can have your VPN server. So anytime you want to get back into your network, you hit this VPN. But this VPN is only probably it's gonna recognize stuff from your MAC address or stuff from a particular IP address that you may have. Like say you hop on your Wi-Fi on your hotspot or something of that nature. You can say, hey, only when packets come in on this network, allow me all the way down here to access these servers. But if you don't see me, don't let them in. Kick rocks, get out of here. Right. So that's where you come into that with that. And then here, there's like, remember I told you, like, hey, just block everything. And then here is drop. So block and drop are two different things. Block meaning, hey, I'm not even I'm here, but you can't you're not getting in, and I'm gonna send you back some information to let you know that I blocked you. Whereas drop is crickets. Don't even respond to the ICMP errors. Like, don't even say nothing. Like, close the shade, like the dude in the color purple. Time to go. Right. Nothing. All right, give you nothing. Right. So then we come over here and it says there are predefined services. So these predefined services on port 22, port 80 for HTTP, port 443 for HTTPS, and then they talk about Samba, MDSN, which relates to IPv6, but don't worry about that because we're not doing that right now. And then IPP, this is printing. So if you want to print on your network, you can just say, enable this particular service in a particular zone, right? Maybe you have a work zone that needs printing, or internal or home that needs printing or something like that. And so then they get into here. They say system administrators interact with Firewall D in three ways. One is through Etsy Firewall D. Oh, they don't even discuss it in the chapter. Boo. Web console, and then the firewall dash CMD command. Right. And so in here, it looks like this some type of a GUI, a web console with privileged login. Then click on networking, and then in here they have firewall. And then once you turn it on, you can then set up, add additional services, and then the ports. Again, you see TCP and something on UDP. All right. And then so they come in here and add a server. So you may have some services that they've already predefined in here through the console. Again, HTTP, HTTPS. HTTPS is secure. Uh, HTTP is not secure, unsecure. And then they go into firewall allowed services. So here's the services that you've allowed, and the firewall is on. And then they talk about in here using, that was one way, right? One way was the GUI. And then in here they talk about the other way, from the command line way, where you come in and you say, you're gonna, and you may want to use the command line way if you got a script that you want to have set up these firewall rules across 200 machines. You may want to use the command line, right? And so there's like, get the default zone, set the default zone, get the list of all the zones, set an active zone, add the source, meaning where am I coming from? Like, are you coming from the source of the traffic? Where is that coming from? Remove the source. If you want to say you got a server that has 3 Ethernet ports, well, tell me which interface that you're concerned about for traffic flow, and then where you want to apply these rules at. List all zones right here. It lists all, and then they say, well, in this case, give me a particular zone, and then list all the configured interfaces, sources, services in that zone. So remember, these zones refer back up to here. When we go back up here, that DMZ, the block, the internal, the home, right? So that's just an example. And then as we continue on, they have a service. Remember, we could add service SSH. We can add, if we don't know the service name, we can give it a port. Just say, hey, just give me the port. Open up that port. Remove a service, remove a port, and then reload. Drop the runtime configuration and apply the persistent configuration. Like, you may do something on the command line, doesn't mean it's going to be persistent unless you pass, I think, the -p parameter to make it persistent. So that way is when you restart the service, it's still there, right? So then here they get into an example of what those commands look like. And that was it for that. So now let's run through an example. Let's go through an example of how to use the lab environment, one, and then two, what we need. So let me close out all these tabs up here, right? And then we're going to open up the workstation tab from the lab environment, and we're going to run that first command that they're telling us to run, right? So here I know by looking here, I'm on the workstation. So lab environment, let me go down here. There's workstation, everything is active. I have different actions I can run. I can start, shut down, or power off, or reset. Reset is gonna be, hey, you did something on there on the machine, and you think you might have messed it up, so just reset it, and it'll go back to its original configuration that comes with the lab, and then you can go back and redo your work. Just remember, when you reset, you lose your work. So on workstation, so let's open up workstation. And so I'm gonna hit enter, and then I'm gonna hit enter again because student is highlighted, and then the password is student, and then I hit enter for student, and then it's gonna go through its thing. Once it comes up, it's gonna give a little thing up here, tell you to register. Don't register machine. Close that out, and then come over here and hit activities. Once you hit activities, drop down here to the terminal, and now I have a terminal. Now, if we go back to the lab, let me hit course. If you see here, the $ lets me know that I'm just a regular old user. I'm not a user with advanced privileges. So I can type this command, lab network, not network, but net security firewalls, and then start. So I'm gonna come over here and type lab net security dash firewall start. Let me expand. Let me blow this up some. All right, so lab, and I just forgot network securities. Uh, net security dash firewalls. Net security dash firewalls start. All right. So now you can see it says check on server A connectivity, enable cockpit on server A. So cockpit, for those that are new, that haven't been here, is a way to web browse and control, basically a GUI to your server. Such a cheating thing. So in real world, I'm just telling you now, in real world, people are not really using that. That's too much attack too much attack space on there. In other words, I can attack cockpit and try to take it over. So from the workstation, use SSH to log in to server A. So I don't need to open up another console. I'm just gonna run this command and log in. By default, the actual SSH keys are already transferred on the machine, so and created, and so I'm gonna log in and not put in a password. But in real life, if you don't have SSH keys set up, you'll probably have to log in with some type of SSH, with some type of username and password if the keys are not there. So I'm gonna SSH over to server A. I can just easily just type SSH server A, because the reason why I can do that, if I do who am I, I'm student. And you can see here they want me to type in SSH student server A, but I'm already student. So I could just type in SSH server A. And now I'm on the, it tells me now that I'm there. It says that the web console is already up and so forth. So if I just highlight this, I should be able to copy that. Let me see if it'll open up for me. You know, I need to go to another machine. I ain't gonna be able to do that because I don't think this is routed externally. I don't think so. Maybe. All right. So now it says, as a student on server A, they want me to create this index file, right? So they want me to create a file called index.html in the var, in the /var/www.html directory. And in that file, they want me to create this file, but they want me to have this information in there, right? So basically, let's do this. And then let's do this. And then let's get rid of that. We can close that out. And minimize. And close that. And minimize that. All right. Let me see something here. Let me know if you all can see the screen well enough when I do this here. Tile this to the right and then this to the left. All right. So now I'm here. I am now going to clear my screen. And now what I want to do now is type in this command on number 3, which is sudo bash -c. And what they're doing here when you do the slash, that means I haven't finished my command. So it's gonna drop me down to the next line, and it's gonna allow me to input more information. And that is echo. And echo is nothing but I got a double quote there. Echo is nothing but uh, uh printing out something to the screen. That's all it is. So I am server A, and because you're in between double quotes, you can use single quotes. And if you were between single quotes, you can use double quotes. Right? And then here, var ww html index.html and then a number double quote. And because I am complete, I'm done, I don't need to type this because I'm not doing anything else. I'm just gonna hit enter. And because I typed in sudo before, it's asking me for a password. You should be able to type just student. Oh, awesome. Let me see. Is that what I'm supposed to get? Let's see. Survey, create a file, blah, 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 add a text line. No, there's no file there. So what happened? Yeah, I don't think that should happen. Let's see. Sudo bash -c echo. I am server A. Yep. And input into var www index.html. So now, because I'm not sure, I'm going to sudo to root. I'm looking for something here, right? And this is how you troubleshoot. So first things first, let me cd over to var. I want to see if the path is there. www. See, can I cd to var? Yeah. Can I do it ls? Yep. What I don't see is a ww, right? I don't see ww and then HTML. I don't see that. So why did you have me do that and it's not there? Sudo to -c. So let's look at something. Man on bash. I want to see if what the -c option is. The -C, if the C option is present, then the commands are read from the first non-option argument. If there are arguments after the command string, the first argument is assigned a $0. Yeah, it's just assigning stuff. All right. What should have happened was it should have created that path for me. Let me exit because I did it as a regular user. Yep. On server A. Yeah, there's nothing there. So let me go do this. Let me look at something. I'm assuming it's supposed to fail, but in worst case scenario, let me make it. I don't think I need to make it. I think it's supposed to fail. And if somebody's typing, I can't see anything. So CD there. Right. So I'm gonna make a directory. Hold on. Make dir -p www HTML. So what the -p does, it says create the top directory and then everything under it. Right. So now I want to do that ls. I had a ww and I had a -p there. So let me go back and exit this. And now when I type this command, that works just fine because that's there. But I think they're trying to show you that if it's not there, then HTTPD is not going to work. I think that's what they're trying to show you. So sudo systemctl enable, and this is how you start a service and have it available across reboots for the servers. Right. So what they're trying to show you here, which is funny, they set this server up. It's not, that package is not installed. So we're gonna take it one step further because I think there's some errors in this right here. We're gonna do a yum install of HTTPD, and this is all being performed on server A. All right. So now when I go back and exit, here I can enable that service, and now you're getting the output as what you should have got. Now they tell you to exit. That's gonna close. Oh, that's gonna take me back to workstation. That's fine. So now that I'm on workstation, they're introducing, and we've done this before, is the curl command. What the curl command allows me to do, it allows me to connect to uh, a server over port 80. I can also connect to a server over port 443. I just have to pass the -K option to get past the SSL encapsulation, and they show you that there. Right. So from the workstation, which is the server we're back on, we were just on server A. It's saying now do a curl on this, and it's gonna say, can you connect to server A? So let's try it. So from workstation, can we curl? And it may work because I installed the package. What happened? Oh, don't tell me my lab died on me. No, sad ain't so. Say it ain't so, sweet baby Jesus. Let's see. All right, let me go back. Uh, let's go here. My hour might have been up.
I
My
wonder why
hour,
that happens to you.
my hour might have been up, beloved.
Oh, that's true. That do happen.
Let's see. Yep, my hour was up. My hour was up, beloved. So we're gonna hit start. So okay, so FYI, if you're ever in the class, just make sure that you keep up with your time so you can start the stuff. My hour was up, beloved. All right, so it's starting up. All right, so I gotta wait for it to boot back up, and then we'll hop back on there, and then we'll test these commands, right? And the command is say test the server on HTTP, which is port 80. and you can see it tells you there, and then connect over HTTPS, which is 443. And then it says log back into the server. And now what we're going to do is we're going to start playing with NFT tables. So here, they said on server A, make sure that NFT table servers is maxed, and Firewall D server is running. So system status, what's going on with your NFT tables? They see right here, and we're telling it tells you that it's inactive, right? Then it says, okay, well, just mask all that for me. Basically, send it to Del Null. Then you take a status of that, and it tells you that it's been masked. And then now we're gonna do a system status firewall D. And firewall D, as you can see, is active and running. All right. And it tells you how long. It also tells you that the service is enabled. And you got that from when you did this step here. Oh, not, oh, no, you didn't. They probably did this from, you can do the same thing here, but they probably did firewall D the same way. They don't show you that. So we may have to go through and actually do that. We'll see. And then once they do that, they have you exit. Then they have you go back to the workstation. So see here from workstation, they want you to open up a web console. See, open Firefox and log into the web console. So they want you to log into cockpit, right? So they want you to come here, hit up cockpit, and then you're gonna log in with a user that's on that system, right? And then they're gonna walk you through on setting up networking and the services that you're gonna allow, just like they showed you in the pictures. And then you're gonna do a curl again on that one, or on port 80, but then you're gonna do a curl on port 443, and then you're done. And then when you do this, it's gonna reset the system. All right, so let's go back over here. It's still going. It's still building my workstation and so forth. So, but I wanted to make sure you got the gist of that, right? So while that's still doing this thing, let's go to the next one. All right, so here we're getting into SC Linux. And how are we looking so far? Is everybody understanding what's going on? How to navigate the lab? How to start up your servers? Is everybody okay with that so far? And the content that we talked about? You just type a one in the chat. You don't have to come off mute. All right. So in here, we're talking about managing at port SE Linux port security. So SE Linux has a long history. You should probably look at this too, because they're probably going to talk about managing it and the history of SE Linux. It's been around for a while. So SE Linux does more than just file and process labeling. It also handles policies and network traffic. And one method that SE Linux uses for controlling network traffic is labeling network ports in a targeted policy. So here's one right here. So port T22 TCP has a label of SSH port T, T standing for target there in the targeted policy. The default for HTTP ports is port 80, and 443 has one for have a label HTTP port underscore T. So they got for 80 and 443, their target is this. So whenever a process wants to listen on a port, SE Linux check to see whether the label associated with the process is allowed to bind to that port. So there's another layer of complexity, if you want to look at it that way, that could prevent you from having something able to work on that port, right? So SE Linux does this thing for that. So let me go see where we're at here. Let's go back up to lab environment. Okay, we active again. Let me open this up. All right, let's pull this out. That's not what I want to do. Come back. Come on, highlight. There we go. All right. And then again, when you log back in, a box is gonna come up, and I can't see it. But here we go. And here we go. Oh, that sucks. Oh, can I go quartz right here? Yep. And we were on. Was I on this? Oh, I didn't install my SSL. I need to install it on server A. I didn't install it. I saw the HTTPD, but I didn't install my SSL. I skipped that step. So let's go back and over there and install that. Mm, mm, mm. Come on, zoom in. There you go. All right. So I can just use my up arrow and then hop back over here. Use my up arrow again. Oh, I did it as root, but that's okay. We could do a sudo yum install mod SSL. And it's gonna ask me for my password, and you put that in. I should type a -y. All right. So I'm on server A. We did that. We did that. Now we need to exit. Now we need to do our curl command. All right. So now I'm gonna clear, and now I'm gonna do curl -k https server a dot lab dot example, and everything is already set up for you, so you don't need to do anything too fancy. But you can see it failed, right? And it says now log in to server A. And now we're gonna SSH back to server A, and we're gonna check the status of NTF table. So let's scroll that up. I'm gonna clear my screen here, and then SSH server A, and then I'll clear that. And then now let's sudo. And the only reason why I clear the screen is so you all can see without clutter. You don't have to do it every time you do something. It's just for me, I just like to have a clean screen when I'm typing commands. So here, this is, remember, we're gonna do this NFT tables, and because I'm doing that, you can see it's inactive, right? And now we're gonna mask it, so we can just go up. We can just use the up arrow and just get rid of status and type mask. And now it's masked. Then you got the results to /dev null. Now we just go back and type in status again. Now you see that it's been masked. And now we're going to check the status of Firewall D. Use your up arrow and change that to Firewall D. And you can see that it's running. And you can also see there's something going on with the zones, allowed zones, and so forth, right? And now we're going to exit. All right. And then at the end of this, it says now we're on a workstation, and now we want to open up Firefox. So if we go back up here to activities and we click on Firefox right here, it should give us see it's spinning. It should give us a web browser. So here we go. Welcome to Red Hat Training. And it's saying from Red Hat Training, I will just open up another another thing here. You could probably browse the internet, right? It's probably got outgoing traffic. Yep, see? It's got outgoing traffic on it. So it's actually, this environment sits in AWS actually. Oh, come on. Why can't you just get rid of everything? There we go. So now we want to do HTTPS. And then we're going to go server a.lab.example.com. And then we're going to go port 9090 because this is going to be cockpit. And we want to continue on to this environment. So we're going to scroll and say, yeah, accept all the risk. We want all the smoke. So now we're going to type in a username and password. And in here, they said accept the self-signed certificate, select and check the box to reuse my password privilege task, so forth. Now you want to log in with student. So you're going in as student, and student. And I got that from right here on my 9.2, right here. And then log in. Now it tells you on the left-hand side, you're going to get a navigation bar. Right? So remember I was talking about that port 80 and port 443. You see here with the symbol lock, you see we want port 443. But as you notice that I got some stuff over here that I can play with, right? But they're telling you automatically click on firewall link in the main networking file page. So I'm gonna go to networking right here, and then they tell me to click on firewall. And it tells me I have port 22 open and I got port 9090. And we know we got port 9090 open and it's working because I am on port 9090 from the web console of this machine. And we know that's working. And we know SSH work because from the actual workstation, we can SSH to port 22 on that server. All right, on server A. So now it says let add a service. So right here you have add a service. So in this case, they say add service. In the add service interface, scroll down or use the filter services to check the box for HTTPS. So we could just type in HTTPS, and there it is right there. And it says to locate that and select and check that box. So we're going to check that. And now we're going to add that service. All right. So we're adding HTTPS. We're not adding HTTP. And it says click on that service button and we add it. Now return to the terminal of the workstation. All right. So let me see if I can get this terminal back. I'm probably going to have to exit out of this mode here because I can't get over to the corner. Let's see. Oh, there you go. Let me see. There we go. All right. So I'm back on my workstation, and we're gonna curl like we did before. So here's a little lesson. You can type in history, and it's gonna give you commands that I ran before. All right. So I don't have my curl in my history. I don't have curl HTTP colon right here. So we're gonna have to type that lab.example.com. Now we didn't open up port 80, but we did open up port 443. So now on my left hand side it's telling me test 443. So what I'm gonna do is now just hit exclamation point and then 9 because 9 is the I ran that command at number 9, so I don't have to type all of that. And I'm just gonna hit enter. And now it's gonna say, oh, it should have given me it should have opened that for me. Oh no it didn't. Yeah. Yep. It should have did curl -k HTTPS on that. So now let's look at something because we missed something. We missed a step. It says in the scroll down, add the filter, click on add services button in the lower right hand side and add the service to return to the terminal, but it didn't. So it didn't like HTTPS over there on that server. So now let's go back. Let's go to server A and then sudo dash that. Let's do
I don't
student.
think it's supposed to be HTTPS. I think it's just
Yeah,
HTTP.
no, it's supposed to be HTTPS. See,
Oh.
right? So it's not running. So let's go over here to var log, not var log, cdo to var ww. Now I'm wondering, do I need to change this to Apache? So let me do this. System CTL status HTTPD. Okay, it's running. And let me look at var log messages. I think it needs to be Apache, but for the user for that one. But don't quote me on that. I think it's supposed to be that. Yep. So let me go here. So now let me go back. Let's exit out because I'm on server A. We know it's up and running. But see, connection failed on port 443. That shouldn't have failed. So let's go back to our web browser. See, we got 443 there. And it should be on public interface zone. They didn't specify. And it's gonna yep, that's all we had. That's all we were supposed to do. Let me see. Now let's turn it back on. And then let's go here. Nope, nothing there. A should have failed, and that should have failed. So another way to check this is this. I'm curious. Let me add HTTP. Did I add it? Come on. Come on. Come on, you can do it. I'm gonna have to come out of this mode. Now, I have to go find wherever this thing is at. I hate when it does this. I don't know where it went. It went to another screen. That's why I don't like using this. All right. We're about to do the damn way. There it is. All right. So now cancel that. We need to add that service. That's all I want to do. Just add a service. Let me go back out and zoom out again. Can I pull it up? Thank you. All right, now let's add the servers. HTTP, one more time, boom, and add servers. All right, now back on my screen. All right, so let's see, port 80 worked. Port 443, not working. Why? So we got 80 to work, but we couldn't get 443 to work. And 443, and the reason why I turned on 80, because there's nothing on there. But on 443, we should have at least gotten some stuff running. So let's go back here. Scroll down. Are we missing anything? Firewall, networking navigation, privilege, console. We made sure Firewall D is up and running. We masked NFT tables. We did a status there. On the workstation, we failed to connect on that and that. I opened up port 80. Port 80 works just fine. Let's double verify port 443. Even though I know it's there. And we see that's there. And we drop down here. This is HTTPS. And so we know that that is there. So we know it. And once we do it, one thing we do know that it's immediate, right? We know that it's immediate. What I think happened is this. On server A, on var, I think you have to own this to Apache. Let's just do a tail on the last 5 lines of etc password. I think it needs to be owned by HTTPD. Okay, it maybe need to be owned by Apache. So to own -r Apache. It used to be HTTPD, but www star and then take www. All right, now I'm gonna restart HTTPD. Now let's check the status, make sure it restarted. Yep. Then one last thing I want to do is HTML. Okay, it's owned by Apache. I want to make sure that it was owned by Apache. All right, so I'm gonna now exit server A. And then I'm gonna try this again. Okay, there's the -K. So now it's reading that on -K before it was reading. But let's do this. Let's see, index HTML. Okay, that's forbidden. You don't have permission for that. Because in the thing, it was stating that if we just did a curl, I should have get that I am server A. We should have been able to echo that, but I wasn't able to echo that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to my console here and I'm going to turn off port 80. I'm going to get rid of that. Okay. And now I'm going to go back over here and try the -K one more time without that. Oh, let me do my S. Sorry. I didn't have an S. Yeah, it's not reading that file. It should be reading the file from, because index HTML is a default file that it should be reading. Well, the HTML part is the default it should be reading, but it's not reading that. It's just reading everything else. Let me go back over here to server A. And I'm gonna restart the services on HTTPD again. And I hope this helped you all with troubleshooting. Yep, see, it's reading the HTTPS now, but it's not reading the file itself. And that's what it should be reading. So it may be a bug in the actual project. See, curl server a.lab.example.com. So this may be a bug that you may need to report to Red Hat when you're going through it. I'll put in a bug report tonight to let them know that there may be a potential bug in this. But you can see the troubleshooting steps that I went through in order to get it to work. Because at no point in this lab, they just tell you to enable this, but there's no, it's installed already, but it didn't create those directories, right? It didn't create this directory. I created those. But those directories need to be owned by Apache, right? And then once they owned by Apache, Apache can read those. They're owned by root, doesn't have those, it's not in the same group and doesn't have access, right? Oh, we're under our time. 1 second, let me start recording.